Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like.
He's black.
Go on.
He's bald.
Does he look like a bitch?
What?
Does he look like a bitch? Best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
I need the best.
I had the best words.
Well, I'm the best there is.
The best. We the best.
Have a chance to be the best of the best.
You are now listening to Best of the Best, presented by Radar Studios. Starring two guys who use their middle initial to sound cool. Here are your hosts, Neil E. Fisher and Mark P. Smith.
So I was thinking about working at Blockbuster because you worked at Blockbuster and I worked at Blockbuster.
This is correct.
And I was thinking back to...
Most people make it a Blockbuster night. We made it a Blockbuster career.
A Blockbuster career. Yeah, we're actually broadcasting live from a closed-down Blockbuster.
That's where we work.
No one comes in, but we still give recommendations every day.
We still have our lanyards.
And we're still trying to sell movie passes that no one wants. That's an inside Blockbuster joke. So we were working at Blockbuster, and I was just thinking about that, and I was thinking about being in high school, having your driver's license, and trying to figure out stuff to do. And for me, I don't know if this was the same for you, but I loved taking the car, whether it was a weekday, but usually a weekend because I had other activities in high school, and going to Blockbuster and then just spending like an hour and a half walking through the entire store, looking at all the movie boxes and just thinking about what's the next movie I wanted to see, or I wanted to learn about a certain movie and see what the cover art looked like. And that was like one of the coolest things that I just loved doing, was just going and hanging out at Blockbuster and looking at movies. Was that the same?
Yeah, I would say that by the time I had a license, I was like way cooler than you. No, I'm just kidding. not at all. I would say by the time I was in that kind of age, I was more likely to be going to movies all the time.
I did that too. But I just loved,
I know what you're saying, but like the same kind of thing. But what I would do that more so when I was like younger, because we didn't have a Blockbuster for a while, even though they started in Florida, but for some reason
I just threw up in my mouth. It burned so bad. I'm so sorry. That turkey honey mustard sandwich really killing my heartburn right now.
That's staying in.
Oh man, sorry, my throat it feels like someone threw napalm down my esophagus. Okay, sorry.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. It just burned. I'm okay.
Anyway, I think more so when I was a kid in elementary school or middle school, I would do the same thing you're talking about. Go through. I would love the video store, especially like the cover art, the like sun bleached posters that were hanging in the window way too long.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just because there was a video store on the way home from school to where I lived, and we would go there, and the guy would let me like rent everything basically because he knew my mom, and he would just know that it was okay, even though he wouldn't.
As long as you went in the back with him.
Yeah, checked out all the adult films.
Well, no, my friends and I used to love going and on a Friday night, because we were band kids, we didn't like do anything bad. So you're like, hey, let's rent 2 movies and watch them. And then my brother David and I, we used to love going to this store called Video Update because on Tuesdays they had, I think it was two movies for 99 cents.
Ooh.
And so we would stand in line whenever they opened, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and we would wait there. My mom would drop us off. We would just stand in line with like all these other old people, like hoarders and weirdos. But we would stand there, the doors would open, we'd rush in, and like whatever the newest movie was, which I'm trying to even think now what one of them could have been, but we'd go rent the movie right away and then watch it, go home and return it. We just loved it. It was great.
Yeah. The video store for me as a kid growing up was one of the best places to go for sure. And when Blockbuster came, it was even better because Blockbuster coming actually kind of sucked because of it put the other people out of business, which I always felt bad.
Yeah, like the independence, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was like, you could always go there and get a movie because they had so many copies of it or whatever. But I'm with you. I was like going to the video store was next to going to whatever amusement park or something to me because it's just what I like about that thought about going to the movie store as a kid versus like what my kids experience, which is like basically
Streaming, or
scrolling through
YouTube.
a device and finding cover art and then
Right.
clicking on a thing, is that you had to like kind of seek it out. You know what I mean? Like you had to show up.
Well, yeah, that's
You had to like
yeah.
go down the aisles. You had to pick up the thing and you go, oh man, that same director made the other bare knuckle fighting movie I loved. Like this is going to be great,
Yeah, then you just didn't realize that it was the exact same cover art, but just with different actors. You just love strolling up the action aisle and seeing what movie was on the like. I remember they used to have movies on sale that you could buy on VHS and DVD. It'd be like on the edge, and
Right.
you felt kind of, well, at least I felt kind of cool knowing that, hey, they rented out The Perfect Weapon,
Right.
and but this one's on sale for $2, and I can have it for myself. Weren't we talking about The Perfect Weapon the other day?
I don't remember what that is.
Oh, it's that great
Oh.
action movie with Jeff Speakman, and he has Kenpo.
Oh, yes.
Karate, and he uses
yes,
those
we did
sticks.
watch this trailer. You're
Yeah,
right.
that was a great
Is that a canon movie?
shitty action movie. No, I believe he was in a canon movie, but I don't believe it was The Perfect Weapon.
Jeff Speakman.
I do want to say,
Interesting. Maybe he was in a movie called Street Night.
oh yeah, second to last film released by Canon Films. Okay.
Wow, look at that.
So today we're talking about films or movies of 1994.
Exactly.
So a little history here. Our first episode that we recorded was best 1989 movies because we had looked on Google just randomly. Mark was talking about Batman. We typed in 1989 and we're like, wow, there's so many great movies that came out in 1989. So we recorded the podcast. Great episode. Our first one, Proof of Concept. And I mistakenly recorded the entire show on my laptop's mic, shitty mic on my laptop, rather than the nice mics that we have here. And I felt really stupid. But we'll release that
As you
later
should.
on. If anyone here is actually listening to this right now, you'll probably stick around for that shitty episode later.
Yeah. It's going to be a little surprise one day.
Yeah, little surprise. So 1994 came
Yeah.
up because we did a similar thing. We were looking up another movie, and it's unbelievable. It's even better than 1989. It's one of the best years
It's
of
insane.
of movies ever. I can't even. There's so many that we're going to get through today, and we're just going to have to kind of steamroll through a lot of them.
1994 movies releases. The 1990 movies released in 1994 is like one of those. It's almost like one of those. It's almost like a Black Friday sale. Like when you look at it, you're like
Everything
there's-
must go.
Well, there's so many great things. When you look at it, you're just like kind of overwhelmed. Looking through all the lists. That was a bad reference, by the way. Bad analogy. But
Well,
you know
here,
what I'm
I'll
saying.
give you one more shot. What's your next reference that you can come up with? Any analogy? See, my friends call everything that I
Maybe-
say an analogy because
Like a-
it's so bad. So I'm not even going to attempt to do it.
Maybe it's like maybe closer to like a great buffet. Like if you went to like I don't know if I've ever been to a great buffet, but if you went to one where you're like, oh man, I really want that rigatoni, but I also want that chicken, but then I want that Chinese food, or like one of those ones that's random shit. That's what 1994 film release.
It like gives
looks
you
like.
every type of food possible.
Yeah, maybe that is a better analogy.
No, that's
But yeah, there's a lot of movies, and we should get through it. We should start. Sorry, guys. Neil's having.
having some terrible issues here. Wow.
Are you okay?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You can't say no. Are you okay? No, I'm good.
No, I'm fine.
I'm
This-
suspect of
This
your
bullet
answer.
wound is just bleeding out.
So let's get started. Should we? I'm gonna throw this out there.
Okay.
I have my movies I want to put in the mix. Like always, I think there'll be some crossover. Obviously, you'll have some movies on your list you want to put in the mix.
Right.
I'll have some movies on my list we want to put in the mix. Put into the mix, and all of that to be considered for best of the best. Our top 5, then best of the best.
As always. Yep.
I kind of would like to, if you don't mind, throw in some honorable mentions real quick, just to kind of
No, I think we definitely
just to
should
kind
throw.
of get the idea of what we're dealing with in 1994.
Right. So if you guys are listening and you're at home or by your phone, go to Wikipedia and type in 1994 films, and scroll down, they have a list, an alphabetical list, and just look through this list. Like I have it printed out here, and it's 8 pages, and it's just unbelievable the amount of great movies that are on here. Now, we're not talking about necessarily critically acclaimed movies, but movies that we love that maybe are close to our heart. The ones that Mark's talking about being honorable mentions. So that's kind of what we're going to go through now. So I'll let you go through a few honorable mentions.
Okay.
And then I have a couple side tangents that I want to go over.
I'm going to give you 3 honorable mentions, a little bit of, and reason why I think they should be honorably mentioned.
Hit me.
One is Natural Born Killers.
Okay, Oliver Stone.
That was so controversial when it came out, and I think it's an interesting film for Oliver Stone because I think it's a Tarantino script, I believe, right? It is.
Well, it's a story by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, it's a story by him.
Yeah,
Okay,
Oliver
sorry.
Stone. I wrote the script with a few other guys.
But it's an interesting film compared to the films that came previously for Oliver Stone because it's so kind of abstract and bizarre, like the way it's very psychedelic, and I don't know how else to put it, but I remember seeing that as a kid and just being blown away with the there goes Too Fast, Too Furious again.
Yeah, that's
Sorry
that's Tokyo Drift now coming through. The entire canon of Fast and the Furious movies is going through our highway next to us.
I think I'm just gonna go through I'm just gonna mention another 2 real quickly.
I will say on that though,
Yeah.
on Natural Born Killers, I remember when that came out, and then I saw it on video, and I was like, "What is this movie? It's all over the place.
It's crazy.
insane."
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Rodney
remember-
Dangerfield plays the abusive dad.
It's so
and
crazy.
that weird like sitcom.
Downey Jr.
I mean, it's a head. I bet you if it watched it now, it's still a head trip. So
Oh, I would think so. I feel like it's one of those movies similar to.
it was so controversial when it came out. Too.
Oh yeah, very controversial, just because of the killing and whatnot, and
Yeah.
the way they treated it. But I think it reminds me of what Requiem for a Dream,
Right.
like just that weirdness, and then
Yeah.
also reminds me of, what I'm trying to think, Natural Born Killers, Requiem for a Dream. Oh, and Fear and Loathing.
Yeah.
That like Fear and
Oh,
Loathing
right.
makes you feel like you're high when you're watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Natural Born Killers, you feel kind of like dirty watching it.
Yeah, it's an intense movie. I remember just being kind of blown away, and it was probably my first Oliver Stone film I had seen, and I thought, oh well, I kind of thought maybe all of his films were like that. So to go back and watch like Wall Street and Platoon
And I apologize. This is actually saying Quentin Tarantino wrote the script, sold it, and then Oliver Stone and David Velaz and Richard Rutowski rewrote it.
oh okay,
Apparently,
well it's kind of like a story then still.
yeah.
It's not like he wrote
basically.
the actual.
They probably
yeah.
rewrote a ton of it, but yeah.
Another one that I want to throw out. There's a bunch, like we said. There's just so many films we could talk about. Sorry, Neil's having issues. All right, another movie, Reality Bites, directed by Benathan Stiller.
Benathan Stiller.
Benjamin Stiller.
Benathan.
I believe that's his first directorial debut, as they would say. But this is a great film because, to me, even going back now, it's like kind of like Singles, in that it captures the '90s
Oh, it's a very good,
like youth
very good connection there with Singles. Yeah, you're right.
like perfectly well. But unlike Singles, that's a Cameron Crowe, right?
Singles is
Yeah.
Cameron Crowe. Yeah.
Unlike Singles, I feel like because Ben Stiller directed it and he brings his sensibility to it, it's still a serious movie, but it's quite funny, and I think it's worth a watch or a rewatch if you haven't seen it in a long time. And I think why I say it may be significant or honorable mention is because to me Ben Stiller is, I think as a director, especially, doesn't get like a lot of due credit, and I think it's just kind of it's nice to mention. I don't know, it's an honorable mention because it's his first movie, and I think it's. I think Winona Ryder is great, and I just think it's worth. Again, I think when you think of the '90s, that's one of the movies like '90s sort of young adults. That's kind of a movie that I feel like is worth watching. You know,
He is interesting as a director. I mean, you have Cable Guy, which I think is vastly underrated. I think when it came out, people didn't know how to react because Jim Carrey, was playing a darker character. It was a much darker comedy.
yeah, it's
But
one
I
of
think
those
it's
wrong
really-
time
Yeah. I
for
think-
for the mass audience.
And I think it's a really smart script. I think Judd Apatow wrote it, and I just think the performances are really good. And you have Jack Black in there, and I thought Carey did a great job in that one. So I
mean, he did-
understand why that happens. Why people didn't accept it, I guess.
And Tropic Thunder is a great, that's a great parody of, Hollywood actors and filmmaking. I mean, I think, like I said, Reality Bites is a great time capsule in terms of 1994.
Yeah. What's your third one?
The one other, like I said, there is a lot. And this might be a little weird one. I don't know if people are going to get on board. But Wes Craven's New Nightmare is interesting to me because...
It's an interesting concept for sure.
Well...
Revisiting and then having the line being blurred between real life and...
Exactly.
And fiction.
And why it's interesting to me is because not only does it kick off his kind of best... I don't know if it's his best years as a horror director because, he made Nightmare on Elm Street and Last House on the Left and all this stuff before that. People Under the Stairs, what have you. But this was really the idea... This is really what Scream became. This idea of blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Like the guy in Scream is mimicking famous horror movies and characters, where I think it's interesting to watch Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's such an interesting take on that movie because you've seen... Because he directed the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and then he was basically an executive producer. I'm assuming not really that much involved in the other movies, subsequent sequels that came after it.
Right.
So then when Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out, I thought it was interesting that he came back, and I thought it was nice that he decided to put his own spin on it, essentially, which is hey, I'm going to come back, but I'm going to do it something different. And having Freddy,
it was pretty inventive.
Had Freddy come into our reality, or seemingly you had it was weird, like you said, a line blurred of what is real and what is not. It was interesting concept, but actually scary too, because there was the actual actress who played
right, Heather Langenkamp.
Right, played in the first movie. Now is being stalked by Freddy in real life, quote unquote. And I just thought that's so cool. And like I said, it's a stepping stone to Scream, which honestly, the Scream trilogy is one of the best horror trilogies of all time. So,
well, I think in any faults that New Nightmare had, I think, like you said, if it's a stepping stone to Scream, then you could accept those faults because Scream is so awesome.
Yeah. So I find it interesting. I don't know if a lot of people put it on their list, so I wanted to throw it out there because I think it's worth thinking about.
Well, I have so many films that I've written down here, but kind of like you said, I'm not going to do honorable mentions so much, but I'm going to start with one little section here, which is there were great sports movies in 1994, and I'm including both kids' sports movies and then just kind of those comedy sports movies that everyone enjoys watching. They might not necessarily be the most serious, the most historically or scientifically accurate, but they're just fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of them I watched on repeat. So let me just roll down this list for you of just the sports movies released in 1994. So you have one film that I used to watch all the time, Above the Rim, with Tupac,
right,
Leon, and Marlon Wayans.
Is that his first movie? Tupac's first movie?
Tupac's first movie?
I believe it is.
That is a really good question.
Actually, maybe Juice was the first movie.
Well, the reason I loved Above the Rim is it just had so many layers to it. I mean, you had Marlon Wayans, who's this kid who's getting made fun of. He can't really play basketball. His hands are like butterfingers, and he talks a big game. And then you have, Dwayne Martin and Leon as sort of these level-headed guys. But then Tupac is just this presence in the movie. And he's really scary. He does that one thing, do you remember, where he takes his fingertips and he blows in his fingertips and the razor blade comes out? Mm-hmm. I remember that was pretty scary.
He's a force. I mean, he was a force in obviously in the hip-hop world and in reality. But as an actor, he was a real presence on screen. And I think...
well, there's
it's a shame that he couldn't do more movies. I mean,
yeah, and then there's that great scene too, where, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Above the Rim, Marlon Wayans ends up killing him because he's been ridiculed so much, which was kind of a weird thing. But I did look up. So technically, Tupac's first appearance was in Nothing But Trouble as part of a cameo at the Digital Underground. Remember when they're in the courthouse
right.
with Aykroyd? But then his first starring role was Juice. You're right.
Yeah. Right.
So
I don't. Nothing but trouble. I don't include.
So Above the Rim, and then you have Kevin Bacon's Air Up There.
Ooh.
That was a fun one. Angels in the Outfield.
Angels in the Outfield. Does it have Tony Danza?
It has Tony Danza. Let's listen to this cast of Angels in the Outfield of future stars or current stars. Danny Glover,
Robert Redford.
Tony Danza, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Christopher Lloyd, Dermot Mulroney, Matthew McConaughey, Neil
Jeez.
McDonough.
Matthew McConaughey's in that movie?
He's an outfielder. Yeah, he's the guy who like runs through the wall. Or not, sorry, maybe not through the wall, but he gets picked up by an angel and then catches the ball. And then
That's
Adrian
hilarious.
Brody. That's a crazy cast.
That's like before Matthew McConaughey was in Dazed and Confused, right?
It had to have been, but I don't know if Dazed and Confused was his first film though. But that whole cast, that movie is so much fun because of the Angels. Christopher Lloyd is great in it. He's just having like a great time. It was a year before Dazed and Confused. Looks like
Okay.
here, so they're probably filming around the same time. So you have Angels in the Outfield. You have another one that I think is an underrated classic, Blue Chips,
Yep.
with Nick Nolte,
Love that
Shaq.
movie.
We have the movie Cobb, which Tommy Lee Jones was great in. That just showed us how much of a dick Ty Cobb was.
What a fucking...
D2, The Mighty Ducks,
Yep.
Knuckle Puck.
Good sequel. Is that where they play the Icelandic team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have Goldberg and
Yeah.
Knuckle Puck. Hoop Dreams, one of the best documentaries of
man.
all time.
God, I didn't even think about that. That's
Yep.
crazy.
Maybe goes in the mix today. We don't know.
Yep.
Chicago
documentary.
documentary. Little Big League.
Yep. Or as Trump likes to say, Little Bigly.
Little Big League. Little Giants.
Nice.
Fumblerooski.
Little
Icebox.
Giants might be my favorite out of all those kids ones you just mentioned.
I love Little Giants.
Yeah.
The annexation of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
What a great play. Cameo by John Madden in his bus because he doesn't fly.
This is what Rick Moranis and
Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill, right?
Yeah, he's got like the perfect Dallas Cowboys
Yeah.
jersey team
Right.
against the
The
rough,
scrappy. Yeah.
Just thinking of Rick Moranis coaching a football team is hilarity in
Now,
itself.
think about this. How interesting is it now when you think about youth sports, especially football, and the whole like supposed droppage in kids playing football?
Right,
'cause of
concussions and stuff.
Because of head injuries and things. That movie had real teams, like you said. Like obviously it had to have been approved by the NFL to.
I think so. I mean,
So
I
do
don't
you
know
think
if
it was
the rules
actually?
changed.
Do you think it was actually maybe paid for by the NFL in some way too? That's an interesting thought, right? To attract the
Yeah.
youth to play football.
Well, here's the thing, though. If John Madden wanted to be involved in the movie, he also could have brokered that deal through
Yeah.
his connections, since he's an NFL legend and
Yeah.
announcer and whatnot. And then the last one on the list here is The Scout with Brendan Fraser and Albert
You're a
Brooks.
big Fraser head.
Big Fraser head. Anything Blast from the Past and Encino Man are constantly on the VCR. So great year for movie sports. Or sports movies, if you correctly say it. But let me give you some honorable mentions here.
Movie sports. I want to know what that is.
Well, movie sports are sports that are movies that are just a little hard to believe. So let's do this, actually. So you did some honorable mentions. I did
Yep.
the sports little section. Why don't we each put one in the mix, and then I'm going
All
to
right.
go on my next tangent, and then we'll continue.
Okay, so I start with the mix.
Yeah, give me one that you want to throw in the mix for sure, for consideration to be in the top 5.
We're definitely going to cross
Cross streams.
here with this list. So
I feel like there's at least 3 movies.
I don't want to ram it home right away.
Yeah, I know. I don't
So-
either. I have my ace in the hole, and I don't want to throw it in there yet.
This is kind of a ramming it home, though. I'll say I'm going to throw in Lion King in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of them on my list.
Lion King definitely. Lion King for me personally, and no jokes, this is my favorite Disney film of all time.
Maybe the last great actually animated Disney film, right?
I
Hand-drawn?
guess that's what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not talking about like. If I had to think of like Pixar, like Ratatouille, WALL-E, those are probably tops on my top more than Lion King. But yeah, thinking about the classic cell shaded animated movies, it's such a superb film. And when I was a kid, like that soundtrack, you couldn't get away from that movie. It was everywhere, but I didn't want to get away from it. I wanted to be wrapped up in Lion King. I wanted to be thrown off the mountain.
Well, one of
wanted
the
to be
things
held up high
I do
and-
love about it is it's loosely based on Hamlet,
Yeah.
which is like my favorite Shakespeare play. Great performances, obviously, by James Earl Jones, Jeremy Irons. Then you have JTT
Yep.
as Simba.
Your boy.
My boy JTT. Actually, my boy is JT.
But even watching it now, like I watch it with my kids, and they really loved it. Like just like I said, like the music in it is so superior,
Oh, it's
and I think
yeah.
and it's very cinematic too for a Disney film, especially one that, like I said, is coming before the aid of computer or CGI. It's just a really great film. I think it deserves to be in the mix.
No, I definitely think it does. You have the wonderful score by Reginald Dwight, a.k.a. Elton John, and Tim Rice. See, I taught you that the other day.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, the other thing I want to say about it, though, is...
Manana.
Sorry. Everyone in the office is probably, what the hell's going on in there? No, the one thing I do want to say, though, is that...
I'm glad you backed up and didn't
I know,
bust
I
my
didn't
ears open with the
I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums
African
out.
tribal song.
The thing that I love about it, though, too, is that it inspired the musical, which is one of
Yeah.
the most successful musicals of all time, and it's brilliant.
That's true. I didn't think about it. I have not seen that musical. Have you?
Oh, yeah. I saw it... I think I
you're
saw
a
it...
real
Wait,
big musical head.
I'm a big Broadway musical
love
fan.
it.
I used to act in musicals in high school. I think I saw it in New York, actually, on Broadway.
Ooh.
And we got to talk to the cast after. It was
New York City.
It was a school trip. The NYC, the Big Apple.
But yeah, it's a great film. It's so enjoyable. So I'm putting it in the mix.
No, I definitely think it should be. So do you want me to put one in the mix or go on a tangent? I should probably put
Yeah,
one
throw
in
one
the
in the
mix.
mix. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, it's tough because I don't want to put the big ones in here yet, but it's hard not to.
I mean, ultimately, we are going to be a top 5 and then picking the best one. So you do what you think.
Maybe I will save some picks for later. Make it a little mysterious. Because there are just so many great films. You know what? I'm going to put... It's a toss-up between possibly a documentary, possibly an action film, a comedy. Well, let me just say this, and I'm going to get your help with this for one to put in the mix, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if anyone had a better 1994 than Jim Carrey.
Ooh, yes.
Think about
We
this.
were talking about this, yeah.
The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber all released in the same year. That's got to be at least one of the top 10 years for an actor as far as movies released and success that I can think of. I mean, that really put him on the map. I mean, after that,
Right.
I mean, he was the biggest star in the world. He did Cable Guy and whatever it was, 97 for $20 million.
Right.
So,
He did Cable Guy for $20 million?
yeah, he was the first man to be paid $20 million for a film.
Jeez.
And that's why it was such a disappointment because it bombed, and it's a great movie. And and then he had a little trouble after that.
I didn't realize he got paid so much for that movie. I thought it was like Batman Forever. Is that right?
Yeah, he was in
Riddler?
Forever. Yeah. So I'm going to need your help here.
Yeah.
So between The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura, what do you think we should throw in the mix? Because Ace Ventura to me still holds up. I think it's hilarious.
Yep.
The Mask is still funny to me. And I will say this, it might be controversial. I'm not a big Cameron Diaz fan. I don't think she's that great. A lot of people think she's like,
I'm not either.
one of the most beautiful people
She
in
looked
the world.
great in The Mask, though.
The Mask, she looked the best she's ever looked.
Because she had meat on her bones.
She had meat on her bones.
Yeah.
She wasn't too skinny.
Yeah.
And she was fresh faced for I think it was her first movie.
Yeah.
Or Dumb and Dumber, which is also, Fairley Brothers classic. So what do you think we should throw in the mix out of those three?
If it's me, I like The Mask okay. I'm tossing it out, though.
Yeah,
out of
I was
those
going to
three.
toss it out as well.
Or at least I'm putting it at number 3. But I'd have to go with Dumb and Dumber in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, with Jeff Daniels, that one, it does have a little bit more lasting power, I think, than Ace Ventura.
I feel like if you watch... Ace Ventura is still funny to me now.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up, honestly. I mean, all these movies are... Especially those two are hilarious. But Dumb and Dumber, to me, is... Might even be, for me, top 10 comedies of all time.
Yeah, I can't get over...
So, giving that reasoning, I would have to say that that would be my choice, putting Dumb and Dumber in the mix.
I'm fine with that. Let's put Dumb and Dumber in the mix. And I will say two things about that. The first thing about it, I heard a funny story from Jeff Daniels where he said after the movie had come out, he was at like an event or something, and Clint Eastwood was across the room. And Clint Eastwood obviously is a, kind of an ominous presence. I mean, he's a legend or whatever. And he came over, and I'm not going to do his voice because I can't do a good impression. But he said something like, "I just saw your film, Dumb and Dumber." And Jeff Daniels is like, "Oh, great. I do dramatic work, and this guy talked to me about Dumb and Dumber." And he said, "So I wanted to talk to you about that scene where you're on the toilet." And Jeff Daniels is like, of all the things he's going to talk to me about, he's going to just shit on, no pun intended, this scene. And then all of a sudden, I guess Clint Eastwood said, "That's happened to me before." Exactly the same. And I thought that was the funniest thing, imagining Clint Eastwood like shitting himself on a toilet.
That movie is so funny. Like, it's so funny that like if it's on TV, I will just watch it.
Oh, you have to.
And I've seen it 23 times.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Front to back. I mean, it's rare. It's hard to make a funny movie, especially one that appeals on a lot of different levels. Like on the surface, it's just bizarre. Like it's just gross out funny. But like you watch it now, especially as an adult, there's so many things you catch. Like small instances, like the like when he comes back in the bar and he's like says something about like, "Oh, we landed on the moon." For some reason, as a kid, that was kind of funny, but now as an adult, it's like even more. I don't know why it's even more funny.
Because he's so
to me.
clueless.
Yeah. But and the fact that the idea that they think they're going to repay all the money back too.
Yeah, I love that. And then the little kid with the bird, the pretty bird,
Yeah.
pretty bird.
But Jeff Daniels being in that movie is such an interesting choice. And if I was casting that movie, I don't know if I would have made it based on his previous work.
I don't. Yeah,
But
it
ends up working out so well because he plays off of Jim. You couldn't have gotten like another crazy comedian and then put Jim Carrey in the mix. It would have been a weird.
Well, think of this too. How crazy this is. You have Jim Carrey, who's like one of the best comedians of all time, and you have Jeff Daniels not playing the straight guy.
Right.
Jeff Daniels is the weirdo in that
Yeah.
duo, or they're both weird.
Yeah.
But Jim Carrey pretends like he's the straight man, but he has no idea what he's talking about.
Right.
And I will say one little quick story. Do you remember the guy that they poisoned? I think it was like with rat poison. Who was chasing them? So I was downtown in Chicago a long time ago when I
Gas
worked
Man.
Gas Man, and I worked at Starbucks.
Are there?
And one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, do you want to go out to this bar or whatever?" And I was like, "Sure." So we went downtown, and we're coming out of this bar, and these cops are like, I don't know, 2 blocks away running. And I'm like, "Shoot, what's going on here?" Then this guy comes around the corner, face is all bloody. He's like shuffling, trying to run away from the cops and ducks down an alley. And it was that guy. He like got into a fight with someone at another bar.
Is his name Danny Aiello?
No. Danny Aiello is
No,
from Do the Right Thing.
Oh no, his name is Matt Starr. I believe it is. Right?
Well, Matt Starr, but I just couldn't believe that this guy from Dumb and Dumber, a movie I'd watched so many times. Yeah, it is Mike Starr.
Mike Starr.
That he was running down the street with a bloody nose.
We saw him. He's a Chicago guy, and we had an employee Christmas party, and a client came that's worked for them, and we saw him in the restaurant, and he actually like came over and talked. So interesting enough.
That's cool.
This is pre your time.
Pre my time.
Yeah.
So do you
When days were better.
before I started
Yeah.
making bullshit? Did you want to put one in the mix, or did you have another tangent of honorable mentions?
Well, let's break it up a little bit. I'll give you a couple more honorable mentions,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So another one, you mentioned Blue Chips already, so.
Yep.
And you mentioned Above the Rim. We're not going to talk about that. A movie we got to mention, Speed.
Yeah, man. Speed.
I mean,
Dennis Hopper, Keanu Reeves. Does
If
that
you
go
make-
in the mix? I don't know. Sandra Bullock? I don't know. That's a fun one. Let's think about it, but keep talking about it.
Yeah. Speed, to me, if you are putting together like the top 10 action movies of all time, Speed's on that list, right?
Jan de Bont
It's got to be, right?
in the top 10? Maybe.
John DeBont, you know what he did?
What?
He shot Die Hard.
Well, he shot Die Hard. He shot Basic Instinct, Hunt for Red October, and Lethal Weapons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of action training.
Or at least Lethal Weapon 3.
It's a great film. I mean, it's Keanu Reeves, one of his best. I mean, since pre-Matrix, I mean, like that's kind of what he's known for, right? That maybe
Yeah.
like Bill and
Point
Ted's,
Break.
obviously, because he's so.
I would say if you're
Yeah.
on the Keanu Reeves Mount Rushmore, not including John Wick right now, but you definitely got to put Matrix, Point Break, Bill and Ted, and probably Speed,
But-
right?
Yeah, and it's such a great concept. Like, I mean, we think about it, like we don't get a lot of those movies these days. I feel like
No.
where you get put into the characters get put into a situation that they're just normal, quote unquote, normal people, and all of a sudden they're forced to keep a bus over a certain speed, or it's going to explode. And the fact that they have to get Keanu Reeves onto the bus and then keep the bus going, and they have to and try to find Dennis Hopper, who's the madman behind the whole situation.
Well, and you have Jeff
know.
Daniels in that. Speaking of him,
Oh, that's funny. Got it right.
the elevator pitch for this movie is great. A young police officer must prevent a bomb exploding aboard a city bus by keeping its speed above 50 miles per hour. It's so simple, but it's great.
Well, and remember too, when Keanu was before this movie, I feel like he was the hey, what's up, bro, kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he was always cast as that kind of guy. Even in Point Break, it's an action movie, but he's still kind of aloof and.
I'm an FBI agent. Yeah.
But I think when this movie came out, I remember their reaction to being like, really, like the guy from Bill and Ted's is like the Bruce Willis of this movie,
Well, and he made up for his terrible performance in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I do not like.
I am now traveling to Budapest. But but he really made it in this. I mean, he's a great action star, and now that's what he's really become most known as when you think about it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Between now John Wick, Matrix, and any other movie he's done action, I think.
Well, I will say Steven, who works here with us, who's our creative director, he thinks Keanu Reeves is like the best action star of all time, which clearly wrong. But
but I think that
he can talk about
has to be mentioned. I wouldn't
give me a few more.
I wouldn't hate it if we put it in the mix, but I don't know if I'm throwing it right in there.
Yeah, I don't know if I am either. Give me a few more here.
I would say another one worth mentioning is Ed Wood,
Yeah.
the movie by Tim Burton.
Great movie about filmmaking.
I think this was Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's second movie post Edward Scissorhands. But Ed Wood is such an interesting character unto himself. That,
Great story about Ed Wood, yeah.
I mean, his movies are terrible, but
They have a certain charm about him, though.
Yeah, in this movie, I mean, Tim Burton. What's nice about this movie is you actually, when you watch this film, get a real insight into Tim Burton, how he is as a filmmaker, because you see what kinds of films like attracted him when you know what I mean, like as he was a youth, like learning filmmaking and craft. So like we would look at Ed Wood's films as being terrible, whatever, but he would see it as something interesting. And I mean, the guy himself is interesting. Bill Murray makes he's in that movie.
Well, Martin Landau wins the Oscar for it.
Best
For Bela Lugosi.
Was it? What's the other one? Not best actor, supporting actor, right?
I believe it was supporting actor, yeah. Well, it's funny story about Martin Landau, too. My mom...
And shot completely in black and white, too.
Well, yeah, and that was kind of different as well. Yeah, funny story about Martin Landau. My mom, taught me about...
I think completely in black and white, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
My mom taught me about old Hollywood when I was little, and it's one of the stories I tell people when they're like, "How did you, get into movies or whatever?" And instead of like kids' books, my mom would
Did you
read
flick
me.
on a film reel?
Yeah. All of a sudden you hear. Back in my day, my mom would read me,
Skip to the war serials,
old Hollywood books, and all that stuff. And so Martin Landau was someone that was cool, and they had this little. I don't even know if it was not really a convention, but it was like old Hollywood came to like a small hotel. And, there was all these stars there. There was Martin Landau and just people that you might have seen from, famous movies, like the lead actress in Creature from the Black Lagoon was there, who I've seen at a few conventions. Her name is Julia Adams, excuse me. But anyway, so Martin Landau was there outside smoking in the patio, and my mom's like, "We got to go over there," because she's a smoker. She's like, I want to go smoke with Martin Landau and say that I did it. And I was like, I don't know, I don't want to bug him, but we ended up actually going over there. So my mom's talking to him, and he's smoking. He looks really cool. I mean, he was really old at the time, and it was a few years ago. And he's smoking, and I was like, "Hey, Martin, I'm a young director. What advice do you have for me, if anything, of your years of experience?" And he took like a long drag of a cigarette, and he went like, "Stay on budget." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I was like, "It's pretty logical, but
Pretty pragmatic.
pretty pragmatic, yeah."
Yeah.
But and then he kind of laughed, and he's like, "I've been on way too many movies where people go over budget and everyone gets angry. So just stay on budget and be nice to your crew." So I'll never forget that. Yeah, great movie. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I'll just throw in one more. It's kind of a toss-up. I'll just say both of them because I think they're worth mentioning. True Lies,
Oh yeah,
Jim Cameron,
You fired.
Jimmy Cameron.
Man, great movie. True Lies.
Yeah, just another interesting concept. Like the whole idea of a guy who is essentially like a superhero, not a superhero, but you know what I'm saying, like a spy by night.
Basically like the American James Bond,
Yeah.
but like times 10.
And then in the daytime is, unbeknownst to his family, just like some boring, whatever, accounts receivable guy. And I think there's a lot of comedy in this compared to a lot of Jim Cameron movies. There's with Jamie Lee Curtis, who I don't think has ever looked better in this movie.
Well, she does the whole striptease. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part, though, because
Yeah.
when I was a kid, whenever this 94, so when I was young in grammar school, I used to, every time I saw one of those tape recorders, I'd be like, do it
Do it
slowly,
very slowly.
do it, do it.
My buddy in high school used to do that all the time. He would call me and say that.
Yeah, just like
But-
like a prank call. Hello.
I mean, that scene
Do
at the
it.
end where they blow up a bridge. I mean, that really happened. They do that in the old bridge from Key West, from one of the keys to Key West. That was an old bridge. They actually exploded for real, which is great. I mean, again, like
Where's that in Miami?
in Key West.
Key West. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great location. They've used it in a few things, right?
Um,
That kind of does
Yeah.
that make you claustrophobic, knowing that like if something happens to
I've
that
driven
road.
on that bridge. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you're just in. It's almost like being in the middle of the ocean, essentially.
I was going to say, because if you get stopped and you can't go anywhere,
Yeah.
all you can do is go in the water and die.
Exactly. I mean, there's that crazy Harrier jet scene. I mean, just there's so many great moments. Bill Paxton, R.I.P.
What about him riding the horse through the party?
Oh, right.
Remember?
Yeah. Bill Paxton's character is hilarious in that movie.
When he
used
pisses
car
himself?
salesman, yeah. I got a tiny dick.
Oh, and then Tom Arnold's great in that
pathetic.
movie, too.
Yeah.
Probably Tom Arnold's best movie ever, right? I mean, he's in a lot of...
He's really likable in that movie. He's mostly not likable, I
Yeah,
feel like.
when I was the mascot at University of Iowa, when I was Herky the Hawk,
Yeah.
he went to Iowa, and he was like smoking cigars during our homecoming game, and I got to like ride on a go-kart with him. He was a really nice guy.
And the last thing I'm going to throw out there is The Professional, or AKA Leon.
That's a great movie, man.
This is really Natalie Portman's foray into filmmaking, into the biz. I don't know if it's her first movie, but it certainly is the movie that put her on the map. And Gary Oldman's excellence in this film, obviously,
He's really good. Yeah, Jean Reno.
Jean Reno is great. He had like a nice '90s string of movies, but Luc Besson. I was trying to remember the director. Thank you. What I like about this movie, we went through a period of the 80s where action films were, I wouldn't call it, like, none of them were like beautiful films. They were always like explosions and people would get their throats chopped and
Right, it's a little
roundhouses to
unrealistic.
the face and blah blah blah. What I love about The Professional and Luc Besson's work in general, as far as an action director, is he brings like a real sophistication and like an artistry to the craft of being like an assassin or being someone that does that line of work. And I think outside of John Woo, it's really like those two guys that really started that sort of almost like I said, sort of artistic interpretation of an action film. Because on the surface, Professional could have just been like one of those, could have been a straight to video kind of bullshit movie, but
Yeah, it was a little artsy.
The way it's done,
Yeah.
it still holds up. It's a great film, so I gotta throw it out there too. And I think that's before Fifth Element and and maybe the Film Nikita I think might have been before that, but that's when I think kind of put Luc Besson on the map.
No, I think that's great. So I'm just going to roll off a ton of movies really fast, and I apologize to anyone who loves one of these movies and thinks it should be.
If you're driving, pull over.
If you're driving, pull over, fasten that seatbelt. You're going to be on the edge of your seat. So here's just a bunch that I highlighted that I love. It doesn't matter.
Gone with the Wind.
It might not be one of the best movies of all time, but I just think they're great. They're not going to go in the mix. So underrated thriller, Blown Away.
Yep.
Jeff Bridges, Tommy Lee Jones, Forrest
It's
Whitaker.
a great movie.
Great like bomb squad movie. I have to rewatch that one. I haven't seen it in a while. One movie I used to watch in tandem.
A great Jeff Bridges movie too, honestly.
Well, yeah,
Sorry.
Jeff Bridges was great in that.
Yeah.
Another movie that I used to watch in tandem with Meteor Man was Blank Man. I loved Blank Man, Damon Wayans, and
I'm not with you on this one, but I'll listen to what you're saying.
No, Blank Man was just so much fun. Like, how ridiculous. And then you had David Allen Greer as the other guy. It's Blank Man and the other guy. And he's like, why do I got to be the other guy?
Is it directed by? Is it directed by like Keenan Ivory Wayans or what's his name that made Hollywood Shuffle?
Hollywood Shuffle?
The director that made Hollywood Shuffle also.
No, you know who actually directed Blank Man was Mike Binder. And
Wow.
he
I have no idea who that is.
he's like a comedian.
Oh, okay.
But Blank Man was just so funny to me because the character was such a nerd. And my favorite scene from Blank Man is when he gets kissed by the woman. He's like,
yeah.
what's happened to me, J5? Oh. Man, I'm feeling that
Was he
quota.
just nerdy in that movie, or
Yeah,
was
he
he
was-
like handicapped? Was he? Because
was-
remember he played the handicapped man, like the superhero handicapped guy on Living Color.
I bet it came from that.
God, can you imagine how that would go over now?
Oh no, they'd never release that. They probably wouldn't release Meteor Man, to be honest.
As
so
they shouldn't.
yeah, right. So Blank Man, that's just a fun one.
Maybe Meteor Man's a Bill Cosby movie. Anyway, go ahead.
He's not in that. Bill Cosby.
That he not
And-
directed it?
No, I don't think he's
Who directed Meteor Man?
he's not in it. It's
Did Robert Townsend
No, Robert
direct it?
Townsend is in it. I believe he
I know.
directed it.
Yeah, Robert Townsend is what I was thinking of. He directed Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh, see, that's where the connection comes from.
Sorry.
Yeah, he directed and
Oh, okay.
wrote it and starred.
Okay.
So here's
Sorry
a
about that.
couple other I'm going to rattle off. Bullets Over
Go.
Broadway
Go.
by Woody Allen.
Go.
It won Diane Wiest her Oscar and was a musical that didn't do too well on Broadway.
You referred to it as B.O.B.
B.O.B. That's
Yeah.
right, and not the rapper who thinks the Earth
Yeah.
is flat. So check out this movie. I used to love this one as a kid. Camp Nowhere, another Christopher Lloyd movie. It's probably not the best movie. I haven't seen it in years, but I used to have a crush on every girl in that movie. Jonathan Jackson goes to a camp where all the kids get Christopher Lloyd, who's like a con artist, to pretend that the camp is something, so the parents, won't think anything of it, and then they do whatever they want. But I had a crush on one of the girls who ended up turning out to be Jessica Alba. So fun fact.
At the end of that movie, did they discover that they actually need structure, and then they?
Well, yeah, and everyone gets along and all that good stuff. Clear and Present Danger, Harrison Ford.
Sequel to Patriot Games.
Patriot Games.
Hunt for October.
Hunt for October,
this year.
yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan. You have The Client with Sarandon, Tommy Lee
shit.
Jones, and Brad Renfro. That was a
Wow.
good one.
That was the really start of that whole
Like law.
because who wrote that Client? That was written by
Probably Grisham, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be.
I
I'm
think
just
that
gonna
was-
say it is. I'm not gonna Google it right now. I'm just gonna say.
I think it was Grisham. You're right. I think because he I think that was that whole 90s was chock full of like law, like the McConaughey film.
it was Grisham. I feel like anytime you're at trivia and there's a law
And like
book
the
question, just go
Rainmaker,
Grisham.
the Rainmaker, all those.
I just smacked my pop filter in my face. A guilty pleasure between me and my friends is the movie Disclosure with Michael Douglas, where he's like this huge sex symbol.
Oh, yeah.
Demi Moore basically like
Right.
gets him to sleep with her and to blackmail him.
Right.
And there's a terrible VR sequence at the end. Four Weddings and a Funeral, I think, directed by Mike Newell and was written by Richard Curtis, who's one of my
I wish I
favorite.
could name every movie in 1994.
Well, I'm just giving you some good ones here. Heavenly Creatures, great Kate Winslet
Oh,
movie.
right. That's the directed by
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, right?
Melanie Linsky's in that one too. And then just a few quick ones here. You have Interview with the Vampire,
Blank Check.
Legends of the Fall, Blank Check, Maverick. North with
Legends of the Fall by Ed Zwick.
Ed Zwick. That's right.
Right. He's the master of the epic sweeping movie, whatever.
The Page Master, which I used to watch. One of my mom's favorite movies, Only You, with Downey Jr. And Marissa Tomei.
Real quick though.
I have one more too. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, what was your last one?
My last one, starring Michael Caine in a very
Michael
dramatic
Caine.
film, and Steven Seagal on Deadly Ground. That was a little twist there.
That was probably Seagal's last kind of okay movie.
I guess. I mean, if any of his movies are good. Oh man, I have an extra page here.
But here's what I have to say. I didn't throw in Legends of the Fall in the mix yet, and you brushed by it pretty quickly, but I think that's a pretty important movie.
I know. I think it's a
of
good
the
movie.
90s, you know.
I although for Ed Zwick, I much prefer Glory and Last Samurai.
Yeah.
For him, for his films.
But I will say, for a Brad Pitt movie, it's definitely like one of those ones that put him in that starring.
Yeah, of course.
More in that like leading man
Right.
persona. Because
Did
before
did he eat a lot in that movie?
he eats in every.
I mean,
movie,
I know he eats
feel
in
like.
every movie, but I can't physically remember him eating a lot in that movie. He probably did.
Yeah.
Let's just say he did.
So do you want to throw one in the mix?
I'm going to throw one in the mix.
All right.
Not to annoy anyone, but I just found my last page of honorable mentions. The Ref, The River Wild, Richie Rich, my favorite Christmas movie, Santa Claus, Street Fighter. Quick story about Street Fighter. For one of my birthdays, my parents were like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to invite all of my friends to go see Street Fighter, this new Van Damme movie. It's going to be amazing."
Right.
All of them came, and they all laughed during the movie because they said it sucked, and I was just I was just so broken. I went home. I'm like, why can't they just like Van Damme?
Did you yell at your friends? Did you say, "Who's going home and who wants to come with me?"
And I said, take your black silk underwear and get out of here. And then I also had to put Time Cop in there because he does the
Jesus
splits
Christ.
on a kitchen set or whatever. Okay,
All right.
so
Well,
my next movie that's going
We
on...
got to move on to the mix, but can I just throw in the last few ones, I think?
Seriously, we will get down to business,
All
guys.
right. Really quickly. Wyatt Earp, you did not mention.
I guess because Tombstone's better.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Wyatt Earp's fine,
Forget I mentioned that.
but Tombstone... I mean, I take Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp over... I love Kevin Costner, though. Don't get me
Right.
wrong.
Black Beauty, which a lot of cinematographers that I've known, which is like two, claim that Black Beauty is, a cinematographer's sort of top 10 movie as far as photography goes.
Well, I feel like anyone who can photograph a horse, which is, I mean, we've worked with horses, we've worked with cows. They're very hard to light because the light just gets sucked into their fur, into their skin.
Right. Especially if you're a Black Beauty.
And it's a black beauty.
Yeah.
So that's even harder.
Not a Black Ugly
Right.
or a Brown Ugly. All right, two more real quick.
Okay.
The Crow, which
Okay.
was Brandon Lee's last film. I think that's worth mentioning. I think it's worth mentioning too because it kind of it was one of those, The Crow, based on a comic, graphic novel, what do you want to call it, was kind of like a nice foray into like sort of the darker comic book type movies. And I think it's worth mentioning because it's a damn shame that he died, because I thought that was a really good film, and I think like he had like kind of caught steam with that, and I thought
I was excited to see where he went. I mean, where he could have gone.
yeah. And it's a shame that in the end he was like killed making that movie, which
Well,
is
it just sucks. Both him and his dad dying.
Right.
They have so much potential.
At
I
a
mean,
young
think about
age.
Bruce Lee like doing The Expendables. Like,
Yeah.
how nuts would that be?
yeah, it'd be crazy.
It's crazy.
And the last one I'll mention is Hudsucker Proxy, which I think is a really fun movie. by
The Coen Bros.
by the Coen Bros. Yeah. So
Tim Robbins might make an appearance
let's
later.
get down
All right, so right now we have
to
the Lion
business.
to business. We have the Lion King and we have Dumb and Dumber on the list, on the official list.
If you're just tuning into this podcast and you just heard we have Lion King and Dumb and Dumber on the list, you probably just totally deleted the subscription.
No, I think this list is going to speak for itself. So,
Yeah.
all right. So
I agree.
So I guess I let you pick Dumb and Dumber,
Yep.
even though I was kind of my pick to go on the list.
Exactly.
But let me put one in the mix.
Go with your pick.
This one's going to be very controversial.
Okay.
Okay. There's a director that my mom introduced me to when I was very young. many people who are older and still to this day say, I don't know how your mom let you watch those movies because they're terrible, they're dirty, they're disgusting, and the language is not good for a little kid.
Did your mom
My mom and I used
introduce you to Seymour Butts?
Seymour Butts, yeah. My mom introduced me to one of the first movies I watched with my mom was Pink Flamingos.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever seen that movie?
With John Waters?
John Waters directed.
Yeah.
Yep, where they eat, Divine
yeah.
eats the shit off the ground.
I did go to art school. I've seen this.
Okay, so I'm going to actually submit Serial Mom into the mix. Now, have you seen
Wait.
Serial Mom? It's a controversial pick, but it's a great cult movie.
What?
Kathleen Turner, okay, Sam Waterston, Ricky Lake.
What is wrong with you?
Because I know it's going to get deleted right away, but I just want on the record to show that I put
Okay.
in a cult movie. Because there's people listening to this podcast, like my friends
You
at the.
putting Serial Mom into the mix. Okay, it's fine.
Look, I know it's going to get taken out, but I just want people to know that I love cult movies.
All right, I got to write Serial Mom down.
I could be joking that was one of my official picks in the mix.
So you met John Waters, huh? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say that, but I did meet John Waters. Yeah, he was. At
I mean,
a
is
book,
that what you're getting to?
well, no. I mean, he was at a book signing at University of Iowa where I went, and
He's a really smart guy.
no, he's really smart, really funny, very witty, and he was really cool though. I mean, he signed a book for my mom, and I had her on the phone, and he talked to her and made fun of her. It was funny. All right, so okay, all right. We'll
So
put
Serial
our
Mom.
Serial Mom.
So we have Lion King
So if you haven't
Dumb
seen
and
it,
Dumber.
it's pretty dark.
and Serial Mom.
You know what? You know what's funny? This is what's happening now. We
Please
know.
don't turn off this podcast.
We know what the top 5 is going to be.
Yeah.
I think. And what we're doing now
We're
is
just
we're
shuffling
putting
our
we're
feet
putting we're putting filler in here before we get to the big guns.
Well, let's get down to brass tacks. I'm about to throw in an ace.
Okay, an ace
you
is
ready?
coming into play.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that was on my list. I knew that was going to be going in there. So, single-handedly resurrected John Travolta's career at the time. People thought he was a joke.
What can you say about Pulp Fiction? If you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, you should stop listening to this podcast and watch this movie. This was Tarantino's, really his explosion onto the main stage of life.
Right. I mean, Reservoir Dogs got him a lot of acclaim.
But can I say this, though, as a controversial? If you're going to make Serial Mom in your mix,
Sure, go ahead.
I think Reservoir Dogs is a better movie than Pulp Fiction. Oh.
Better than, well, okay. Well, I will say I think Jackie Brown's terrible. I'm not the biggest Quentin Tarantino fan. I think he's overrated, personally. I also think here's what I think as a director. He can take as many artistic licenses and make homages to his favorite films because he's a movie nerd like we are. The thing I don't like about him is he doesn't admit when he does it. So if you're going
Right.
to say Spielberg when he did War Horse, he's like, I want it to look like a John Ford movie, Gone with the Wind. You see those references there, and he pays respect to the guys who came
P.T.
before him.
Anderson does the same thing.
P.T. Anderson,
Yeah.
same thing. So and Spielberg loves Kurosawa, and he always tries to put a Kurosawa.
But I think
inspired
I'm
shot.
with you. I don't know if Tarantino is. I think people think he walks on water. I think he
does too.
I think he happens to be a great filmmaker.
No, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a
But,
great filmmaker. I think he
but I'm
knows.
with you. I know what you're saying.
I think he knows how to put together a shot. One of our coworkers, who shall not be named, is mooning us through the window. But really quickly, the thing with Reservoir Dogs, a lot of it, and my friends don't agree with me, a lot of it is very similar to the film City on Fire
Okay.
with Chow Yun-Fat. I know it's not exactly the same, but I remember there was an interview where someone said, before the movie came out, one of my favorite movies is City on Fire. That's what he said. Movie comes out, man, there's a lot of sequences very similar to City on Fire. I've never heard of that movie. So just admit it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Say what movies you pay homage to. I mean, he's a great filmmaker. He knows how to do a sequence. He knows how to write.
He takes exploitation films and then writes within those confines. You know, that's his genre he loves, and he does a good job of it. I think Pulp Fiction is an excellent film. It's got to be in the I
No.
dare say top 5 for sure.
Oh no, I think it definitely
Not dare say, but it's got to be in the top 5.
No, I would right now. I would put cement on it and put it in the top 5 for
And
sure.
the one thing I'll say about Pulp Fiction real quick too is it's what it does do. Pulp Fiction to me, along with a movie like Clerks.
yeah,
Did Clerks come out in 1994?
that was going to be one of them I was going to put in the mix. Yep.
Okay. Sorry to spoil that, but to me, Pulp Fiction and Clerks are the films that start the whole 1990s independent film.
Well, yeah, and
Revolution.
That's why I think Clerks is important. And you know what? Since we're just doing this, we're letting.
And can I say real quick about Pulp Fiction? I love too that it, as an editor,
Okay.
that they exploited the whole, and this is what Tarantino does a lot in movies, is exploited the whole linear aspect of filmmaking or
Non-linear?
of story. Exactly, like basically turning that on its head. Like
Well, yeah, I think that's why it's so smart. Is it's all over the place, and that I remember when certain people, when we worked at Blockbuster, they would rent it, have never seen it. They're like, I couldn't follow what was going on with the movie
Right.
because it's weird. American audiences, or maybe just cinematic audiences in general, we're so used to that formula that inciting incident in 10 minutes, and then the second act, and then all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think when you change that, when you turn it on its head, like you said, it's weird for people and they don't understand it. But speaking of Clerks, though, which we can just let this roll with the punches.
yeah,
So Kevin Smith used to say that Richard Linklater's Slacker was sort of his inspiration, along with El Mariachi from Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And when you want to talk about guys who really set their footprint, in cinematic history of like the independent movement, you have Robert Rodriguez with El Mariachi for like $7,000. He made that movie. And then you have Richard Linklater with Slacker, which I think he made for like $20,000. But Clerks, I mean, for a lot of people who hate Kevin Smith, who don't like his words, he's very similar to Tarantino in the way that he writes people,
yeah,
how they talk.
and long conversations. Yeah.
Long conversations.
about almost nothing.
Right, about almost
Or
nothing.
presumably nothing.
Almost like the Seinfeld of cinema.
Yeah.
But the reason I think Clerks is important, and a lot of people might not like it, is, this kid took whatever it was, $28,000 of credit cards and money that he
Right.
got from quitting film school and made this movie. And for any of its faults that it has, it really did start that movement of hey, we can make movies too. It doesn't have to be the studios. And then,
Right.
next comes Sundance, and next comes film festivals. So
And it
it's
really-
an important movie.
It's an important movie. Pulp Fiction and then Clerks is really helps usher in the resurgence of independent cinema in the 90s. And it really reminds me a lot of films of the late 60s, the American film movement with like Easy Rider and those kind of.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sorry, the 70s.
Yeah,
Wait.
70s, I think, were probably the last great renaissance. And then, that independent movement of the 90s came along. Because you can't really deny Easy Riders and Raging Bulls, that one book of the 70s. You had
Right.
Spielberg, Coppola, Scorsese, Ron
Yeah.
Howard, Brian De Palma, and George Lucas all hanging out.
Yeah. And if you think about it, the movies, like you said, Richard Linklater, Quentin Tarantino,
Cameron Crowe, Kevin
Steven
Smith,
Soderbergh,
Steven Soderbergh, yep.
with Sex, Lies, and Videotape, really is the sort of that period in the 90s where people were kind of tired of the blockbusters or whatever the American filmmakers were making and wanted something fresh and new. And these guys were like print money basically because studios were all about
Right,
what
and
were
they
doing.
and they allowed a new voice to be in the mix.
But that's a great movie in the mix. I didn't even write it down. I had saw it earlier until I forgot about it, but it's a perfect movie for the mix.
So we have Lion King, Dumb and Dumber, Clerks, Pulp Fiction, Serial Mom. I know it's a little disjointed, but so I'm just gonna. I was gonna ask you. I don't know if this is on your list.
Let's not F around. We've got
Yeah, let's.
2 films, I think, that are left to be put in the mix, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, there's one I want to put. It's my favorite movie. Probably. Oh, here's the question.
All right, you do the honors then, because I know what you're going to say.
Okay, so it's hard to ask a filmmaker what their favorite movie is, or really anyone who's kind of artistic or cinema fan. I'm sure people listening now, people ask you that all the time, and it's just hard because there's
For
different.
me,
it's
Austin Powers.
It's Austin Powers.
Yeah.
It's not even Austin Powers though. It's Austin
second
Powers
one.
Gold member.
Yeah. Oh, the third one, yeah.
And if someone asked
Just
me if we put a gun to your head, right, what would your favorite movie be? I probably would have to go with what's going to go in the mix now, and I for sure think it should be in the top 5, no question, is The Shawshank Redemption.
Ooh.
Probably my favorite film, and it was my friend.
Now, can I ask you this?
Okay.
This movie is obviously important in cinema history. IMDb regularly has this movie as their number one movie of all time.
Correct.
Would you, if someone said you can only watch one movie for the rest of your life, would this be the movie?
If I could only watch one the rest of my life?
Yeah. Like, if you want to be entertained by a film, if you want to watch a film, it's got to be Shawshank Redemption.
I don't know. That's tough because it depends. The criteria of it being the only movie you can watch the rest of your life. I'm not sure on that. I just think it's one of my favorite movies. I just think it fires on all cylinders with the writing, the directing, the cinematography by Roger Deakins, the acting. It should have won Best Picture in '94 over Forrest Gump, in my opinion. Roger Deakins should have won, I think.
And this is it's all based on the
Stephen King short story, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
I
That was
just
part
love-
of the group of stories, right? The Stand By Me and all that.
Yeah. I just love this movie. I think
It's got a lot of great humor in it too. You know.
well, that's the thing. It's
When you
got
think about it.
you think about these guys who are in jail. A lot of them are murderers, and Andy Dufresne is wrongly convicted, and they're cracking jokes. And it's one of those movies where you really see the inside of a jail, where it's like has its own ecosystem. Like Red is the guy who gets things for you, and then you have the sisters who are like beating up and raping people, which is terrible.
Right.
And I mean, you have the prison guard who is a great character actor in that, and the warden. It's just I can't say enough about this movie. And this is the one thing I will say about this movie, and I say it every time to anyone who talks to me about it. I am just so happy every time I watch this movie and I get to the end, because if it's on TV, I'll finish it.
Yeah.
That at the end they actually show you they show you Red, played by Morgan Freeman, reuniting with Andy on the beach. Because they could have just ended it where you're like, oh, I wonder if Morgan Freeman's going to find the note and he's going to find the directions to say Watanabe or whatever. But they actually show that moment, and it's in that,
In the story, is it the
wide
same
shot.
way? Do you know? I've never read the story.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
So if any of you guys are big
Just
Stephen
because
King
it's
fans,
Stephen King, and I always thought,
yeah,
you
let us
think
know.
he would have added that part in
The only
there.
thing I knew about the story was that Red was like an Irish guy, and that's why his name's Red, because his
That's
hair is red.
hilarious. Yeah.
Which is great casting too, by the way. Clancy Brown was the.
I mean, that scene
the
when
guard.
it's just a great story and persistence, and like never giving up on the truth, like never giving up on over all those years. And
right.
When you think about like as a viewer, when you're watching that movie, you know that he's up to something. You know Andy is trying to get free as quickly or whatever as much as he can, but you really have no idea what he went through until they have that scene where he's gone and the warden pulls the Rita Hayworth poster off the wall.
He pulls the Raquel Welch poster off the wall.
Sorry. Pulls a Raquel Welch poster off the wall, and
Great shot too, inside the wall.
yeah, and it's an iconic shot along with him, putting his hands up after he crawled through the sewer of shit. But
I just love when they're in the movie theater because it's the power of cinema. They're watching Gilda with Rita Hayworth, and she has that scene where she like whips back her hair, and all the guys just can't handle it.
right.
Like just thinking about a woman like flipping her hair back, and they're all like in love.
And
Going back to myself for a
Side note:
moment.
I've been to Maine, and I've been to the location where they shot this movie. They actually shot exteriors and interiors in this old prison, and then it was torn down after the movie was made. There's only like a corner of the wall that exists still that they left up, and there's like a monument. There's like a little plaque, or not a monument, but a plaque with a little note that says that movie was shot here. So.
It does, for some reason, though. NPR is saying that the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, was where the film was shot. So I wonder if it was shot in two different places.
Well, that's wrong. NPR doesn't know what they're fucking talking about because I've been there,
I think
and it wasn't in Ohio.
I think you were duped. Oh no, here I don't see anything
guy-
here about Maine. I swear, I think
just a corner of a wall.
I think you were on some sort of tour, and the guy took like.
Well, I
25
wonder if I'm mistaking it as like maybe the prison that's maybe based on that.
It's probably
Stephen
the one
King
that was
wrote.
inspired because he
Yeah,
loves
yeah,
Maine. I mean, that's
maybe.
where he's from, Bangor, right?
I'll find that out. I'll add an addendum at some point.
Okay, so that is definitely in the mix. 100%
Good
for me.
film. 100% in the top 5.
Right.
Can't.
You know, it has to be. I'm going to say right now, Pulp Fiction and Shawshank are definitely in the top 5.
Ooh,
Personally,
making declarations. I like it.
yeah, I'm putting my John Hancock.
I
on
got
that.
one more I got to put in the mix.
I think I don't know
We're
if this
getting-
is the movie that you hate or someone else I know
We're getting
hates.
down to business.
I'm really curious to see what this is, because if it is the one I'm thinking of, you are not the person I know that hates this movie with a passion.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Or it's
Okay.
like what he says in the movie. What's your name, son?
Forrest
Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. That's what the guy yells. Forrest Gump's in the mix. I do not hate this movie. I love this film.
Who hates it around the office here?
Other people that suck.
Okay.
A guy that used to work here actually hates it.
Oh, that's right. Because I feel like at least once a month, someone at lunch goes, "Remember that guy? I used to hate Forrest Gump."
Now, here's what I'll say. My wife and I love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Very sentimental, but great.
But I love it. Is very sentimental. But I don't usually love sentimentality in film. I told you this before with Spielberg movies, where I feel like they always are on a great path, and then they end on a sentimental note, and it always bothers me. Mm-hmm. Forrest Gump is unashamedly sentimental and unashamedly, and I think rightfully so, for both reasons, an American film, like Americana.
Oh, it's very Americana.
You know,
yeah.
like just it,
Yeah.
because it basically uses him as a vessel to just show like the struggles of America.
No, it's
And
very smartly crafted.
it's like a Ken Burns documentary about America, but it's through the eyes of this simple guy. And I think it was, you know, parodied all the time because of his like box of chocolates and all this stuff. But if you go back and watch that movie, it's such a pretty movie, like just cinematically. The soundtrack is great. The a lot of that digital stuff they did where they replaced him shaking hands with presidents was awesome.
I still feel like to this day, Forrest Gump might be one of the best movies that utilized CGI, but not in an obvious way.
Right.
Because I think those are the best movies.
Yeah.
That's why Jurassic Park works so well. I know there is a lot of CGI in Jurassic Park, but it weighs it evenly with practical and CGI.
Yeah.
And this one did it so smartly, like inserting him in with JFK and the presidents and all that.
And two things I'll say about Forrest Gump. I don't agree that it should have won Best Picture. I do think Shawshank Redemption should have won.
Oh, you did?
What?
I didn't know that. That makes me feel good.
No, I do.
I feel warm.
But I love Forrest Gump nonetheless.
No, it's
And-
great. It's great. Lieutenant Dan.
And I know this is going to be controversial to all the Back to the Future fans.
Okay.
And the Beowulf fans out there.
And the Christmas Carol.
But I think this is Robert Zemeckis' best movie.
You don't think it's used cars?
No. Used Cars is fine.
So you're saying Forrest Gump
I just think
is better than
I dare
Back to the
say
Future?
it's a masterpiece. It's just it covers a lot of ground, and I mean there's for all you want to do is make. I mean, yes, it's funny. He does a weird accent. Tom Hanks has been heavily parodied for doing what he did in that movie.
Well, think of the guts
But-
it took for him to do that performance. I mean, I
But
feel like if it
that
was
story with
released-
him and Jenny though, I mean,
Oh, it's sad.
It's so heartbreaking. I mean, it's insane. Like when
When
that scene, like I'm telling you, you can judge me all you want, but that scene where he talks to her grave and starts to cry, I cannot not cry every time I see that scene. It's
she
insane.
died of AIDS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great supporting cast with Mykelti Williamson as Bubba. I love him. He was great on the underappreciated television show Boomtown, if you ever have a chance to check that out on DVD or streaming. Gary Sinise, and then Sally Field as his mom. But I will say, Forrest Gump, I don't know, do you think if that was released now, one, people would probably say it was racist. Two, people would say Tom Hanks was like laughably performing as Forrest Gump.
The times are too cynical now. I don't think.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But it is such a slice of Americana, right at the perfect time. Like I think when this movie came out, you know,
And I think people would criticize it because I think it sort of it puts a bow on sort of simplest, like it kind of like tells these complex American issues like Vietnam and civil rights and what it's like to be from the South and all these issues
Yeah.
through the perspective of the simple guy. But I think everything is appropriate for that film. Like it is sentimental and it is like kind of a feel good movie in some ways. But I think it's perfectly. I don't know, any other tone wouldn't have made sense for that movie. And I will say as a side note, I went to school in Savannah and they filmed a lot of the whole park bench scene takes place in Savannah, so I know exactly.
Are you sure that the tour guide wasn't also taking your money for this one too? Hey guys, Forrest Gump filmed over here in the back
right
of my
here.
truck.
Yeah, right here.
So
It was right here, sir. Right. Where's the bench? That was CG. No, I'm kidding. There is no bench there, by the way. If you go there, too many people like took dumps and like did crazy shit on the bench, so they took it away. Anyway,
I can't believe people are stupid.
yeah.
Did you see that sketch on SNL where Kate McKinnon played Jeff
yeah.
Sessions as Forrest Gump?
Yeah. See, it's still relevant.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, Forrest
That's all
Gump,
my mixes. That's all.
That is all your
my
mixes?
pieces that are in the mix.
Those are all of them, huh?
Yep.
All right, so just to recap here, we have Lion King, Dumb and Dumber, Clerks, Pulp Fiction, Serial Mom, Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump. I'm actually going to throw Hoop Dreams in there because we talked about it. I think it's an important
I think that's
documentary.
Well, we talked about earlier. Are we? Is Speed a relevant movie in the mix?
Yeah,
Or-
I think we should put it in there.
Okay.
Just screw it. I mean, it's such a great action movie. I'm not going to put anything else in the mix. Everything else is just more soft spot or guilty pleasure. Like I said, Santa Claus. I love that movie, but I don't think it's one of the best movies of 1994.
Should we deliberate our top 5, or are you have any more mix?
No, I
additions?
think we should deliberate. I just want to kind of run down here, make sure we have everything.
Yep.
We actually have 9 films right now that are in the mix. I mean, we didn't True Lies. We could put a 10th in to deliberate if you want. No one talked about Wolf with Jack Nicholson. I didn't think that was very good.
I would throw True Lies in the mix. Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
That's 10 films.
All right, so we got 10 films. So one more time. Lion King, Dumb and Dumber, Clerks, Pulp Fiction, Serial Mom, Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, Hoop Dreams, Speed, and True Lies.
Serial Mom is the Donald Trump of this list. I'm just going to tell you guys right now.
It's a great movie. All right, so if anyone who loves Serial Mom, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tweet at us, hashtag BOTB.
Yeah.
Throw your own list in there, but I think there's an emoji for like a knife. Put that knife
Oh,
emoji
yeah.
in there
There's
and
a
put
mom.
I stand with Neil. Hashtag I stand with Neil. Okay, so before we deliberate, tell me if I'm right here. So we have Lion King, which is pretty much the last great hand-drawn animated movie probably ever made, right?
Well, people would probably argue that Iron Giant is
Yeah, or let's
in
say
that
Disney
mix.
movie.
Yeah.
Disney
Disney
movie. Okay.
Beauty and the Beast came after this, but I'm not going to put. I think still Lion King is the superior movie.
Excuse me, you were incorrect.
Did not Beauty and the Beast come after this?
You were awarded no points.
Sorry,
And may God have mercy on your soul.
I thought it came after.
Beauty and the
Lion
Beast was
King.
1991, first animated film to be nominated for
Wow.
Best Picture.
That
Wow.
old. Wow, that
Wow.
old. Hold on, Wilson, get out of here.
I don't know how he makes an appearance every time.
Wow.
Wow.
All right.
There was a beast and a beauty. So Dumb and Dumber, we said, was kind of like the best of both worlds with Jim Carrey, and you had Jeff Daniels, classic. Clerks, we said, was sort of along with Pulp Fiction, but more so Clerks, really cemented that independent film movement by Kevin Smith. Pulp Fiction, great movie, nonlinear timeline, great cast, ultra violent. John Travolta's resurgence. Serial Mom.
Cemented Quentin Tarantino as a force in filmmaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Serial Mom, I know it's not going to be in the top 5, but it was just a great cult movie with a dark comedy, very, very dark. Shawshank, we said, one of the greatest movies of all time. Probably, in my opinion, the best adapted Stephen King story. I mean, The Shining is good too, and Carrie is good.
Sometimes they come back. You're not thinking about that one.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
Christine. Forrest Gump, we said, one of the best slices of Americana, and you think it's Robert Zemeckis' best film. Hoop Dreams, I think one of the best documentaries
And we're not talking about Poop Dreams. That's a different
Right, yeah, it's not Poop Dreams.
adult film.
Maybe, one thing we could do is omit Hoop Dreams and maybe put it into another episode, like Best Documentaries.
That would be great.
So Speed, we said, great action movie, and along with Speed, another great action movie, True Lies. So, so let's
It's an
deliberate.
excellent list.
I think it's a good list. I
Yeah.
know we took a while to get there because there are so many movies in 1994 that are fun. And like we said before, we're going to deliberate.
Hopefully you're still here after Neil put in Serial Mom.
Yeah. I just want to say, I love cult movies. That's why I'm a member of the Canon Films Appreciation Society on Facebook. Shout out. So I will say something. We said before that this list might not be the most critically acclaimed list. It probably actually will end up being that. But the reason we said all these movies is because we love them and we think they're just great pieces of cinema. What do you think, Mark?
I agree. Any of our picks we make are not going to be based on critical acclaim. It's just what we like.
And I know some people are going to email us. I can feel it. And you're going to say, Neil, Mark, you didn't talk about Kieslowski's 2-3 Colors movies that came out in 1994. And we'll say, look, we understand and appreciate Kieslowski, but he's just not on this list, guys.
Sorry.
Okay?
This is not part of
If you want to see Kieslowski, just go to your local film school and you'll watch it in ad nauseum. Okay? Or ad nauseum. All right. So, let's deliberate.
Okay.
And now it's time to announce the best of the best.
All right, we deliberated and we come up with our best of the best, which is our top 5. But before we get to those, and I will say it was kind of tough. Like I said, a lot of movies, a lot of great ones that came out in '94. I think some of these are interchangeable, but obviously that's your opinion versus ours. But we will mention our Tony Kukoc and Ron Harper supporting 6 and 7, which we have to mention. I think you can't have a great team without a couple guys coming off the bench, tossing in buckets for you. So to me, or for Neil and I, that's Hoop Dreams, one of the best documentaries of all time, Chicago film. Probably we'll mention that, talk about that on a documentary episode at some point.
Yeah, it almost is.
It needs a little more elaboration and discussion.
And I think if we are going to do that episode, it most likely will be in the top 5, but we'll save that for another day.
And then Clerks. I think Clerks is. You'll see with the rest of our list. It was hard to make the top 5, but I think Clerks should be mentioned as a 6 and 7, kind of coming off the bench, supporting movie.
Yeah,
just because of its place in cinema
and I think that's it, the place in cinema, because I know there's a lot of people who hate Kevin Smith for whatever reason, but you just can't deny. I mean, the guy showed filmmakers like myself and like you that you can take a small amount of money and make a movie.
And it wasn't a one and done thing. Like
right.
He made other great films with Chasing Amy and Mallrats and the whole View Askew universe. So it's really the start of a bigger thing. So
Number 5,
Dumb and Dumber. And the reason we put that here and we discussed it for a long time was Jim Carrey just had an outstanding year in 1994. It's almost a collective addition to this list because of The Mask and Ace Ventura. We chose Dumb and Dumber because of its lasting quality and the fact that it really hit everything on all cylinders and still kind of stands up to this day. But we just really thought Jim Carrey's performance and his career in that year that he deserved to be on the list at number 5 with Dumb and Dumber.
I agree. For Farrelly Brothers movies, everyone has a something about Mary on their number 1 list. I think you can argue that Dumb and Dumber could be in that Farrelly Brothers top 3. I would argue that it should be in the top 10 of comedies of all time. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think it's rightful in the top 5 1994 movies.
Number 4,
Lion King is our number 4 movie. Like we mentioned before, Lion King to me is one of those last great hand-drawn Disney films. It's such an epic scale, and it's such a great story. And like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Lion King, and like a lot of other great Disney films and Pixar films at this point, it deals with real life emotions with like death and your place in the world. I think the soundtrack's incredible. Just a great, fun movie. all in all. So I think as an animated film, and this is before feature animations were really getting their due, in my opinion.
On a side note,
definitely belongs to number 4.
I completely forgot that Matthew Broderick was Simba as an older Simba, because Jonathan Taylor Thomas was young Simba.
Right, and they
I did not know that was Matthew Broderick. I can't believe I forgot about that. And a great performance by Whoopi Goldberg as one of the hyenas, along with Cheech Marin, and then Nathan Lane as Timon.
Yeah.
Great performance.
Well, Rowan Atkinson, that's funny. Anyway, so yeah, Lion King, number 4.
Number 3.
We have a very good top 3. I don't think you can really argue against these 3 films being the top 3 of 1994. Our number 3, to the dismay of some people, I'm sure,
Serial Mom.
Serial Mom. Sorry, Kathleen Turner, we love you. And John Waters. No, so the number 3 is Pulp Fiction. We really think this was sort of, Tarantino really, placing his name among other directors in Hollywood, writer-directors. He won the Oscar for screenplay. It's a great example of nonlinear storytelling, which obviously we know people have done it before, but in the 90s, he was the guy that kind of brought it back into fashion, and a lot of people...
and into America.
Into America, yeah. And a lot of people copied him off of that. But, we picked this one as number 3 because, as Mark said, his favorite is Reservoir Dogs. But you have great performances. You have a great performance by John Travolta, who had a career resurgence with this film. Samuel L. Jackson is awesome in it. Great quotes from him. Uma Thurman, Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth. And then, Ving Rhames, and the great cameo by Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Which everyone loves to quote. And we can talk about Bruce Willis and all these other people too, but, I think it speaks for itself. What do you want to say about it?
Yeah, there's nothing really more to say about Pulp Fiction other than I think most people consider this Tarantino's best movie. Again, I love Reservoir Dogs more. I like the whole movie that takes place in one sort of location, which Reservoir Dogs doesn't completely do, but for the most part does. Mm-hmm. To me, that's more of it's more of a sort of courageous movie to make. I think Pulp Fiction, though, is great. I think you can't not put it in the top 5, and I think its rightful spot is number 3.
Number 2.
Forrest Gump is our number 2 spot. We've elaborated on this a little bit before, obviously. It's probably my favorite Zemeckis movie, although I love Back to the Future, and I don't want to...
I personally would take Back to the Future over it, but I understand why you like it over.
It is sentimental. It is a kind of a goofy guy. I get all those criticisms. I would not argue with those, but I don't know if you could do this in a movie any other way. I think the tone of it is perfect, is right, and I think it is a kind of a postcard, an Americana, a thing that was made in a time where before we got really cynical. So to watch that movie now is probably silly, if you hadn't seen it before. But I think I just think it's a great film. Definitely belongs in the number 2 spot.
I will say it is an example of, I don't even know if it's the right word, but of epic storytelling. Thinking about the time periods that we follow Forrest through and the things he does, it might not be like a big action movie or epic poem or Beowulf, just to kind of mess with Zemeckis even more. But thinking of how vast this story is, it really is. It's like a great novel, if you will. But one thing I will tell people, fans of Forrest Gump or people who just know a little bit about Forrest Gump, if you want some interesting facts, look up the novel by Winston Groom. I think there might have even been a sequel to the novel. It is so different.
I have read the sequel.
It's so different than the movie. It's insane.
Yeah.
I think he's on an island in one of them with a shit mountain or something.
Yeah, in the sequel, he actually discovers the secret formula to Coke, which is so funny.
There's some weird stuff in the books, but just look that up. But very deserved. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yeah, deserved. Yeah.
We're getting to that point. But yeah, a great movie at number 2.
At number 1, the best of the best is
The Shawshank Redemption. I just think it's one of those movies. anytime it's on TV, you have to finish it. You follow a story of a guy who was wrongly convicted of a murder, even after he saw his wife and her lover in his house. He works the system to his advantage and becomes friends with a lifelong friend. And it's a great story about friendship. It's a great story about hope. It's shot beautifully by Roger Deakins, who still, which blows my mind, who still has not won an Oscar. And Frank Darabont just does a great job with this movie. I just don't. I know some people might not like it. It also has a little bit of sentimentality, kind of like Forrest Gump. I just don't know how you could not like this movie.
Yeah, I agree. This movie is really excellent. I didn't see that at the time when it came out. Actually, I came about this later, but I would say that it definitely belongs in the number one spot. Many people consider it the best film of all time, especially if you look at IMDb. I think that's debatable, but I don't think that what's not debatable is the craft of how it's made, the story written by Stephen King, the direction by Frank Darabont, like you said, the cinematography, the acting. And I think one personal interest to me is, story-wise, I really appreciate the idea of Andy Dufresne. Like, he's framed for this murder, and obviously he would not want to spend a significant chunk of his life in prison, but in the end he meets Red, and you root for those guys as like friends to meet somewhere in the real world. And I think the most interesting part of the whole movie is how when other prisoners finally get the freedom they so greatly desire, that they realize they realize that maybe it's not what they want in the first place.
Right, they can't handle being on the outside because
Exactly.
they're so used to their life that they've created on the inside.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy concept to me.
And I think when you look at that film, if Morgan Freeman's character Red didn't meet Andy Dufresne and didn't have that connection, he probably, once he gets out, which he does not assimilate into real life very well, just like the other character. And you think he might have like killed himself too, if it wasn't for Andy Dufresne. Well,
that was like Brooks. Brooks killed himself.
Yeah.
That's a sad point to that movie. And I think,
and then real quick, Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins' character, is unapologetically like a real positive force in that movie. Like he's just a guy that is going to keep moving forward and keep, no matter what.
right. Well, the thing about him is, think about it. If
Like
you were,
prison does not break him.
right, and
In
if,
the end, he breaks prison, and I think
if you close your eyes and imagine now being framed for a murder, getting however many, I forget how many life sentences he gets. He gets a lot.
yeah.
Going to jail knowing you didn't commit a crime and that you have to learn to live on the inside of a jail. Not only is he positive, like you say, he does have his dark moments, but I believe he gets beat up for sure, and I can't remember. I know I've seen it a million times if he gets raped or not. I think he might, but by the sisters. But he figures out how to weasel his way into doing all the taxes for the employees,
Right.
doing the books for the warden,
Right.
and he positions himself in such an important place in that jail that he almost metaphorically has like the warden by the balls. But think of
And
it,
then the warden kills himself.
and the warden kills him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. What did you call me? Obtuse. But think about this though: if Andy were ever to get out, I don't think they would even let him out. If the warden, if he never met Red, I don't know if the warden would let him go because of all
Right.
the stuff that he does for free that they're saving money on.
Right. He
'Cause they're
would have never
crooks.
gotten out.
Yeah. It's just such a great movie. Just if you haven't seen it, just watch it. If you have seen it, just take a Saturday morning, get a cup of coffee, watch it. If you're a guy, it's one of those other movies where I get a little teary-eyed, just like at Field of the Dreams when he asks his dad to play catch.
Right.
Like this one when Red finally sees
It's
his
a
friend.
brotherhood movie. It's a guy's movie for sure.
Definitely a guy's
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, it's just a great movie. I definitely think you guys should send us your lists like we always ask you to, and we want to see what you said.
But yeah, those are the top films of 1994, top movies.
If you don't mind, Mark, I don't want to bug you and I don't want to inconvenience you, but I have something I'd like to say before we sign off.
Okay.
It's just a little message that I want
It's a
everyone.
poem?
It is a poem.
Okay. Is it a limerick?
It is not a limerick, but it is something for everyone to take home,
Yep.
think about in private. Fear can hold you prisoner. Hope can set you free. AKA the tagline of the Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's so stupid.
That is.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. See ya.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
Thanks for listening. If you think we've missed any of your favorites, message us on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @BestOfBestPod and include your own top 5 by using the hashtag BOTB. We ask that you rate, review, and subscribe to Best of the Best on iTunes or your preferred podcast app. Have ideas for show topics, opinions, or just want to say hello? Send us an email to bestofthebestpod@gmail.com. Till next time, special thanks to Radar Studios and long live Don Hogue.